Tell me about it.
A lot of miles and stuff. Do you sometimes worry that the highlight of your career is fighting Dennis Hallman? Because that's a moment that everybody remembers, dude. SPEEDOGATE.
SPEEDOGATE. He made it memorable. He made it
Talk
so
about
memorable.
that whole story. Remind people about it.
Yeah, when did you realize he was wearing like a Speedo for the fight?
He
like,
came
at what
out
point?
and jumped into the middle of the ring in my face. I couldn't help but notice before the fight. He came right out and did this in the middle of the cage. And
but there was But it's like he told you before,
nothing in the locker room?
Or in the locker room, or like, dude, I got a sponsor.
No, not the same locker room.
All a surprise. You look out and you're fighting a naked man.
I was in the ring. I was in the cage first.
Yeah, you were there first.
God. So then he came out and came up the stairs, which I probably didn't notice him come up the stairs. But when he came up, he came straight out, whether he did a little loop or whatever. He went straight to the middle of the octagon and did like a big sideways hamstring stretch. And like,
yes, he did. Yes, he did.
He did like a Cossack, like that Pavel Tatsulin, the kettlebell guy. He did a Cossack from side to side and extended each leg and put his ass to the ground. And
Did you want to talk to him about this? Like, hey, man, let's we've got some problems here. Maybe we don't got to do this today. Can we get you some of the help that you might need?
Like my interesting answer to everyone is I wrestled my whole life. It's not a shock. Like we weighed in naked half the time when we had.
So it didn't bother you at all. It didn't.
We stood in line in tighty whities, like 100 dudes in a row, a single file line going up to a scale. You know what I mean? Like we wore Speedos that, were boner huggers. Like it wasn't the most shocking thing. I'm just sitting there thinking like Frank Shamrock, Ken Shamrock, Dan Severn, Marco Huas. List goes on, like of guys that have worn similar, but not quite that bold. And obviously it had been so long since someone had worn it on that big of a stage.
That's true.
Casual fan.
That's a good argument.
Let me ask you a question. It's a
Joe
classy
Sutton
argument.
wore a thong.
But like, after that, like Hallman obviously was like Dana was pissed at him and stuff like that. Like, did you ever hear what he got paid for that, or like what was he doing? And then the other part of it is that Hallman is a talented dude. If he had been consistent when he wanted to, that guy was a magic dude.
Well, listen, like I'm coming into this fight, like, early in my UFC career, this guy had beat my wrestling coach twice.
Twice in like 20 seconds each time.
And I told you, I put him on a pedestal. Like Matt, I couldn't touch Matt in the wrestling room. It was not even a thing. Like he was the strongest human being ever. He had such good technique. Like I couldn't break his posture.
He's disciplined too.
Like he used to throw half Nelsons on me. And I'm flat on my chest. Imagine like that screens the floor, right? And I'm miming this. So I'd have my hand trapped underneath me with my elbow out half the time with wrist control. He'd throw a half Nelson. This shoulder would end up on this ear. But because this elbow stuck straight out to the side, I can't roll over to my back. I couldn't let him pin me. He was ripping both shoulders apart. Like it was like being full Nelson. It was messed up. Like, Matt, you don't have to run a power half because every half Nelson you have is powerful. Can you please unlock your hands and stop breaking my arm?
No way.
I had another coach that was Russian that was lighter than all of us, but he was like a freak, like sort of MMA interested guy too, and he would just choke us in front headlocks all the time. It's legal. It's your fault. You should get out.
Okay, so
dude, sleeping in the middle of our room. So you wonder why half of us turned out to be MMA fighters. Like, we're in the wrestling, but we're fighting half the time.
All right, so what about the locker room afterward? Was any yelling from Dana or anybody backstage in regards to it? What was their conversation with you?
The first I heard of it was at the press conference. I'm sitting next to Vitor Belfort. So Dana's in the middle, then Vitor, then me. And there might have even been someone to the side of Vitor. I just knew I was outside of Vitor from the middle of the podium. And he started giving away bonuses, and I'm getting a bit hot and like warm and like excited. And he said, knockout of the night goes to Vitor Belfort. And my heart sunk. You know what I mean? Like, I TKO'd him. I thought, shit, man, I threw some mean elbows. People were online, Twitter, calling them hellbows and all sorts, right? So I was a bit excited. And it was a bit of a funny ground and pound. Like some of it was loose and limp and other was a bit Mark Coleman looking. So I was like, oh, come on. And then he says, and I've never given out this bonus before, and I didn't know what he was about to say. I'm still like half sad, but I'm still riding the high of winning. But I'm like, man, that's 50 grand, could change my life. And he says, and this bonus is for getting them god-awful shorts off TV. And my,
All right.
I end up getting that bonus and having a bit of a laugh. And the rest of the press conference, there was a bit stuff going on. And I probably gave that same answer. Like, what'd you think when he came out? I'm like, well, I laughed. Like, I've wrestled my whole life. I've seen that stuff before. We've all peacocked and showboated and had a bit of a play. So good on him. And I go, it's going to be memorable. And sure enough, you know, here we are almost a decade later still talking about it.
Yeah, Chris always talks about, like, that's his biggest remembrance of the training mask. He's like, Chris said that he read that guy's shorts at least 50 times.
Wrong, brother. Wrong, brother. You were telling us the exact time when you could see his jump. What, like
It was
at
2:35.
2:35
in the first round. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. See, you know what's
right there.
I'm in the van heading home from that fight. That was in Philadelphia. And I get a screenshot from one of my friends via like Facebook and text of what, and I didn't know it fully